We pray your blessings over this meeting this morning, that we will always do things decent and in order, that we will do the business of the city that will help the city to prosper and grow and have a great quality of life. We pray for all of that are sick and our residents everywhere. We pray that God, you just bless us immensely. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen. Amen.
So thank you all for coming out this morning in this nasty weather. It's been a fairly calm couple of weeks for me, thank goodness. And due to the length of the agenda, I'm going to forgo a mayor's report, other than to say that I'm happy to see all the candidates that are running. It's nice to have an option for the citizens. And I'm fully available for any candidate that would like to call me and sit down and talk, have a cup of coffee, and ask questions. I just, I want the city to move forward, and I want the best to happen for the city. So that being said, let's move on to the commissioner's report, and let's start with Commissioner Aldridge today.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Not much to report over the last couple of weeks. I mean, there are some good things to report, but I think city manager is probably going to report some of those things. With some funds that have come through, the city's continuing to move forward, and I'm very proud of the progress that we're making. I just want to tell our employees, again, with the city of Lynn Haven, that you're doing a good job. I'm hearing good things on the street out there about the work that all of you are doing, whether it be law enforcement to utilities to stormwater. We're getting a lot of positive feedback about how the city is looking and how it's operating versus, let's say, right after Hurricane Michael. We remember how much destruction there was. And so there's really been a good turnaround. And I just want to say thank you to you guys and gals that are out there working hard every day for the citizens of Lynn Haven. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Not much to report. I did have a couple of issues with individual citizens that I put in front of our city manager. Also, on the 27th, Commissioner Aldrin and I attended the TPO organization meeting, and at that meeting, it was stated, and it's no news to anybody, but I have the notes here, and the FDOT fiscal years 2022 to 2026, they've experienced a shortfall. They told us of $1.4 billion due to COVID, so they really had to go back to the drawing board on several work projects within that time frame, and two of them that got dropped were the widening of Back Beach Road and the widening of 390 from 77 to 231. Only this is the planning stage, but it was explained to us that this is a temporary shortfall, and as soon as the funds are back, these two projects will be put back in with as much priority as they were kind of taken out. They just had to recarve everything for the budget. Commissioner Aldridge and I voted no, of course, because I know that the citizens of Lynn Haven want that the roads coming through all the way to 77. We want it to be completed through 77 and on to 231 for the capacity issues that we have right now. So I just wanted to report that we thought we were speaking for the citizens of Lynn Haven when we did that. The two TPO representatives from the beach also voted no, and it was the first time I ever saw a deadlock. But the DOT has to move on. There was a vote was 4-4, and we are just an advisory committee at the end of the day. But I thought it was very interesting. I even mentioned it to Commissioner Aldridge that it was kind of history to me that I've never seen that happen in a TPO meeting before. You never get much drama, So. With that being said, I just wanted to report that back to everyone, and I wanted to thank the citizens and thank the employees of Lynn Haven. So, City of Lynn Haven, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Turner?
Thank you. I've not had a whole lot going on the last couple of weeks. One of the things that I did want to ask publicly, since we have things changing all the time, I'm concerned that the new candidates running might not be aware of the sign issues, the political sign issues. And I don't know, do we have anybody here from code enforcement that can bring us up to date on what we're going to do with that?
Commissioner Tender, actually, I think that I asked PD to put out a post to give them parameters on how the signs can be, and then after that, you're exactly right. There is a certain space that all signs will have to be posted. They cannot be posted on the city right-of-ways, and they have to be behind.
The telephone pole,
yeah,
usually?
telephone pole, and there'll be kind of a post that'll go out today, and then after that, code enforcement will go in and they'll take up any signs that shouldn't be where they shouldn't be.
Okay. Now, 4 years ago, which seems like an eternity ago, when code enforcement picked up one of your signs, it was left in the back of the truck. You had until the end of the day to go pick it up, or they got dumped. Is that going to be the same?
We're doing things just a little bit different this time because they make phone calls and they'll let you know that they have them.
We're actually going to collect them like we did the construction signs, and they'll be in the city yard when you pull in to the left. We stack them there. We leave them there for at least 2 weeks.
Oh.
So you can pick them up there.
Awesome.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. I actually had that on my report to talk about. So a couple other things that we have. Again, I have 2 checks. One is from CrowderGov. I'm pleased to announce that the PPDR program is finished. The last house was demolished, I think, last week. That check is for $55,384, and then I have a check for Tetra Tech for their consulting services and PPDR for $12,412. It is amazing that the monitors and the contractors have been with us almost 28 months. And I had a very nice email from one of the monitors from Tetra Tech that said it has been a privilege to work for the city of Lynn Haven. And he's seen it from beginning to end. And if you were here after the storm, you know what it looked like, and what it looks like now is surely totally different. So thank them. The next thing is the Employee of the Month. The staff voted that the Employees of the Month, and there are 2, are code enforcement. Code enforcement has worked tirelessly. They answer so many emails, phone calls, and trying to make sure that the city is back in order where it should be. And so that is Carrie Odom and Marla Clark. They're not here today because we always try to leave room for all our citizens to come in. And but I just wanted to recognize them. The Department of the Quarter. If Joe Footen will come forward and receive the Department of Quarter, and I think Chief is here to receive code enforcement, if you will do that as well. I will give both of those to you. As you know, the Department of the Quarter, Joe Footen and his Facilities Maintenance Department have had a very, very busy very busy time in terms of helping to rebuild this city. We want to thank them for all of their hard work. As a matter of fact, we also received the Apple of My Eye Award from Bay County Chambers for the Senior Activity Club, which Joe and his guys had a lot to do with. I went to receive this award on last Friday, so I just want to give our staff a hand for doing a great job on this building, and great job all the way around. Next, we will be celebrating in February 23rd, Black History. We will be doing a reception where we ask all of the different schools to send in their artwork and essays and all the things that they are doing for Black History. And then I will ask all of the commissioners will be the judges of that. I think that's one of your fun jobs that you like to do. Am I correct? And then we will announce those winners on February 23rd when commission meeting, because it's the same day. So the commissioners will have most of the day to come in and browse around, look at the artwork that has been sent, and then we'll announce those winners then. It'll be a lot of fun, and I thank you guys for doing that in advance. Just a couple other things. We received a little bit over $100,000 grant, and I want to thank Lieutenant Brian Blaylock for making that happen for us. It's a COVID grant, and it gives us some equipment that we will not only be able to use now, but in the future. And I will tell you that we continue to apply for all types of grants for the city to try to save money in all those areas. And it's because we did hire the Integrity Group to help us with 5 kind of top priority areas in the city of Lynn Haven. We now know that one of our grant proposals or applications has been moved forward. It was the $5.2 million West 10th Street storm application with CDBGR that has moved forward. Now we'll have to present a presentation, but that's high on our list. That's a $5.2 million stormwater project that we could potentially get grant money from. So that is very exciting for us. Ben and the rest of the group are working hard with the other 4 applications, and we have a pretty good chance of getting those as well. So I want to say thank you. And then lastly, our financial update. Ask our Deputy Finance Director if she'll come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning. Any questions?
Thank you.
And that is my report.
Thank you, ma'am. On to the city attorney's report.
No updates today, Mayor and Commission. I know we've had several ordinances and resolutions that are on the agenda for later that have finally come to fruition, so we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. And the next item is public commentary. And Mr. Scray got his hand up first, so come on up, Mr. Scray. Nobody else has raised their hand, sir.
Hello, Ryan Scray, I live on Missouri Avenue. Somebody asked me to be present today and talk about this because they're working and they couldn't come. I know I haven't been at many meetings lately, but I watched them all online. So what I want to talk about today is what they asked me to, which is this line in the proposed changes to the charter, which removes the line indicating which ordinance must first be approved by referendum, which is in the context of the city commission giving itself pay increases. Now, I don't want to talk about if you guys deserve a pay increase or not. That's not really relevant to this. I personally believe you guys probably do, and any future commissioners too. I want to talk about the process, the governance process itself. This person that shared this with me and wanted me to talk about this expressed concern for a governmental body giving itself pay increases without the public having input, other than the fact that the public elects you at large. So I would urge this commission body to strongly consider not making that change and allowing the new commission that comes in to consider making such a change to the charter, an aspect of pay increases, because we are in an election year and there's 2 members of this commission that may or may not be here depending on if they're running again or not. Additionally, I would urge any commission and other members of this community that are running for the commission to consider how pay increases are given to the commission and what sort of input the public has into that process and how it's governed, to ensure that it's not just internal and there's no public input to that. There's so many ways to do that that aren't, considered sketchy, for lack of a better term. I think having something where the public is giving you input into that process would be wise to do, and it would increase public trust. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Yes, sir. I almost didn't recognize you with a mask on, Mr. Walker. I'm sorry about that.
I'm trying to hide. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I apologize for being away for a while, but COVID-19 knocked the house in half, so I did get my free pass to go, so I'm out on the market again. Ladies, gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the charter later. But what we have here is an opinion by people we haven't had the chance to talk to dealing with the charter. We have opinions too. Our opinions are just as much valuable as the person that is changing our charter. That is our document. It is compared to the Constitution of the United States. That's our governing body. It is the people's document. To change the Constitution of the United States is pretty difficult. To change the charter is difficult. You have not adhered to the charter in the last two basic incidences, and actually, you've broken the law. That's unacceptable. That's why the citizens are asking for a total review, line for line, by the charter, at the charter, to look at it. Bring it up to date now and for the future. We're going to be discussing that later. Second subject. You were informed officially that you did not own the fuel depot. You were officially informed that the property from the Air Force was not annexed into this city. Therefore, Blue Waters and LLC went and asked to annex the property in. Now we're getting into litigation with Blue Waters LLC over the fuel depot rails to trails. You were informed you didn't own it. If you read the contract, I'm looking at you, read the contract, it says he owns it for 75 years. His heirs own it with him. He has the intent to lease it to the city of Lynn Haven. The word intent goes twofold here. One word in the charter and one word in that contract can change the whole character of the thing. One word can make a war. You've got to be careful. This man's got you over a barrel now, legally so. You did not listen to the citizens. The citizens are saying something now. You're not listening to them. Please, please listen to them when it's concerning their document on how they are going to live in this town now and into the future. You're going to have a change of government coming up. Those people are going to have to look at how this city is run by the rules and regulations you're trying to change right now. They don't even have an input into it. I would suggest that you take a good look at this in the future for them as they come into office after April. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have public comment? Okay, we're moving on to the next agenda item. It's the consent agenda, items 8 through 11. Item 8, minutes of the January 26, 2020 regular meeting minutes. Item 9, approval of emergency communication agreement between Bay County and the City of Lynn Haven. Item 10, discussion regarding time extensions of RV trailers and pods on private property for residents affected by Hurricane Michael in accordance with Ordinance 1071. And item 11, approval to appoint Kenneth Murphy and Eric Nolte to the Board of Adjustments. Is there any particular item that any of the commissioners would like to pull out of the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion with the commission? Hearing, yes, sir?
Yes, I was just going to say, on the RV situation, I see that we received a few more,
Yes, ma'am.
and I think that's going to continue. I don't see it stopping for a few months yet. I prefer this way that they're writing in and we're doing this so that they don't have to come down here and all of that. But I also think that we have some trailers, and I know I've spoken to you about one. And by the way, there is somebody living in there. Everybody says it's not. It's turned into a junkyard, but there is somebody in there. And so I think we really need to stay on top of those people that are deliberately creating havoc for their neighborhood, and it has nothing to do with rebuilding. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I too like the case by case, that we, give everybody the opportunity to apply, but not doing a blanket approval for everybody. Any other discussion with the commission? No? Is any discussion with the public? Hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Moving to old business, item number 12. Discussion and possible approval to use mobility impact fees to construct the pedestrian crosswalk off Petty Drive at the northeast corner of Bel Air Estates into the public shopping center. Public Works. Bobby, you got something you want to tell us, sir?
Good morning. Yes, the last commission meeting, we listened to what the public had to say regarding the sidewalk. So we went back, modified the plans, extended the sidewalk, which increased the price. But I think for what we're getting, it's well worth it. So what we're requesting is the approval of the $50,000 to construct it using the mobility fees. And once you approve it, we're still pending the approval of the easement before we can actually build it, which Kevin has been working on diligently with their attorney. So even if you approve the funds today to construct it, we can't construct until we receive that back.
Okay. Bobby, just for clarification, the mobility fees, they are earmarked, they have to be used for sidewalks or any kind of mobility issues, correct?
Correct, for new construction.
Okay.
So this is not an improvement, this is entirely new construction. And I think the new plan lays out the sidewalk much better than the old one. It was just, the original one was more cost effective, but
Okay.
this is just a better plan overall.
Commission, got any questions for Mr. Baker?
I just want to know if you reviewed it with the citizens that are most concerned.
And I did send it to her, and so she's been able to see it, but I don't know if she has any more comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Bobby. And I appreciate you,
thank
making
you,
sure you
Bobby.
share it with her.
A motion to approve.
We have a motion.
I just want to make a comment, but I can make it after.
Well, I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The one thing about this, I love the idea of using the mobility fees. That's what they're for. That's a great idea. But have we considered the fact, what happens if Publix closes and packs up and moves away? I mean, we've seen strip malls move away, and then we have a sidewalk going nowhere, or a bridge, or whatever. I don't know how. I was talking to some folks, and they actually suggested that we ask Publix if they'd like to donate. If they'd like, I mean, they're going to reap the benefits of this. And do we have any assurances that they'll be there for the next 20 years or whatever? I mean, is anybody opposed to see if they would like to donate? This is only going to increase their business.
Commissioner Tender, I think we should move forward personally. I mean, we've got this lock, stock, and barrel that's ready to go. I don't think it's a bad idea maybe to talk to them on possibly helping us with maintenance in the future if it's helping bring in business into their establishment. But I mean, we have this thing ready to go. I say we just pull the trigger on it, but that's just one guy's opinion. So.
Well, I thought Bobby was just saying that it was going to be a while before we what's a while? How long do we think it's going to be?
Well, I mean, and I don't mind reaching out to their attorney who I've been dealing with. I will say Publix owns that, or one of their entities owns it, so they're not just a tenant or an anchor tenant there. They do own it, so there's a little bit more of an interest there that I think they're going to be there for a while. But I can reach out and see what they're willing to contribute. As far as the timing, we've sent the easement to them, the one that you saw in your packet last time. I've asked a couple times. They've actually been giving us some input on the plans that we've been incorporating. They have not really asked for any changes to the easement, so really it's just a matter of getting it through whoever their president is who needs to sign it, and their corporate red tape, basically. So there's not any issues I'm aware of with that easement, so it could be in the mail for all I know, but we have been working with them on the plans and accepted their input, so we can certainly reach out and see if they'd like to contribute financially.
It was just a thought, and it sounds like it's going to be a little while before that project's done. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there any other discussion with the commission? No? Any discussion with the public? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ann Mahold, and I do want to thank Bobby and other people, for the commissioners, for reworking the plans. I really do appreciate that. I feel like you really worked with me, especially. And I think, there are a lot of apartments behind Publix, and if those people would like to come into the Bel Air neighborhood to use the sidewalks and all, it's for, women or men with strollers or young children with bicycles that will help. Everybody else that walks, you could walk on the grass around there, but there is no way not to be in the street if you have wheels. So, that will help people that would like to, move from one neighborhood to another. So I appreciate Bobby sending me the plans, and I think they're fabulous, so thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comment? No? Hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, thank you. It's, I'm very happy to see that moving forward. Okay, moving on to item 13, final reading of ordinance 1102, establishing procedures for special assessments. City Attorney, do you want us to read the ordinance before I turn it over to you, or you plan on reading the ordinance?
We really, I mean, if Vicki wants to read it, but we do need to read it, and again, these are all going to be public hearings, the next, actually through number 17, that should be a public hearing as well.
So you need to swear everybody in?
No,
okay.
it just needs to be announced that this is a public hearing and final reading
Okay.
of these ordinances and that one resolution.
All right. So this is a public hearing, and final reading of ordinance 1102, establishing procedures for special assessments.
Okay.
City Manager, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance relating to services and capital improvements, providing a special benefit to specific areas within and adjacent to the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, providing definition and findings, authorizing the imposition and collection of special assessments to funds the cost of capital improvement and services, providing a special benefit to specifically identified assessments areas within either or both incorporated areas of the city and or unincorporated areas within the urban service area of the city, providing the optional and mandatory prepayment of assessments, establishing procedures for notice and adoptions of assessment rolls for corrections of errors and omissions, providing that assessments constitute a lien on assessed property upon adoption of the assessment rolls, establishing procedures and methods for collection of assessments, including assessments imposed on government property, authorizing the issuance of obligations secured by assessments, providing for various rights and remedies of the holders of such obligations, providing that such obligations will create a general debt and obligation of the city, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. And then now.
Right, and again, this is the second and final reading, and just for clarification, all this ordinance does is set up our process and procedure in the event the city commission wants to implement a special assessment. For instance, a stormwater assessment, or like we talked about, a nuisance abatement assessment, where we can put clean and liens on the tax roll. This sets up the adoption procedures of how to do that. So we're not assessing anybody or implementing an assessment right now, but we're just putting those procedures in place for the future.
Thank you, sir.
So-
Commission got any questions or?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to ask Mr. Ovos. So basically, what you're saying is, we're not assessing anybody. Kind of like going into the house, we're knocking down the front door, but we're not going to enter. And then we'll vote when there will be a vote, if any assessment options.
Correct, and actually in this ordinance, like I said, it sets out the procedures. There will be multiple votes, multiple hearings. You would have to, if you want to say, like, take example, a stormwater assessment. We say we want to put a stormwater assessment on every citizen in Lynn Haven. We would actually have to go get a study and get a rate, recommended to us. But then we would do, under this, an initial resolution. So we'd have a hearing and a resolution saying, here's what we want to do. And then we would come back later on in the year with a final assessment resolution, and you'd have another hearing to actually put that in place on or before, I think it's September 15th is the deadline every year, because you've got to get everything to the county, to the tax collector. So this just puts that process on paper. But yes, before you'd have any assessment against anybody, there would be multiple hearings and resolutions that would need to be adopted.
And we would have to vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Yeah, so what would the commission like to do?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Yes, sir. I barely saw your sign there, or your hand there, sir. But please come on up. Somebody had their hand up. Was it you, Mr. Walker? Okay, like I said, I had a hard time seeing who it was.
Rich Walker again. I enjoyed the clarity there. I said that is exactly what is needed to the people, because when you say assessment, the flags go up, okay? My question is this. You say unincorporated, incorporated. Do we know what's unincorporated in Lynn Haven? What is incorporated in Lynn Haven? Second of all, does this extend to the service areas, which are non-residents of Lynn Haven, but have to pay for service? Would that assessment go into those three areas? I asked people, staff, and they're not supposed to talk to citizens, but that's all right. I asked if they knew what the unincorporated areas were and incorporated. They did not. So is that going to be defined in your directions to the citizens here? What's unincorporated, incorporated, and does it include the service areas?
Pretty much in a nutshell, the corporate area is the property inside the city limits of Lynn Haven.
Right.
Unincorporated are the people that are in the county, and the city of Lynn Haven does not have the power to assess taxes for anybody outside the city limits. Correct?
Not entirely. So what, and why we wrote it this way is because there is a concept called an urban service area. So for instance, you have, you're actually allowed, there's really a 5-mile radius. You just can't go and encumber any other city limits, so you couldn't get into Panama City. But if there's unincorporated county, but we have run water and sewer lines or some sort of stormwater improvement system, you charge them a 25% surcharge. So you can have customers that are in the county, and you charge them a surcharge for that. So what this encompasses, if there's some sort of an assessment program that might reach into that service area, so it might hit some of those water and sewer customers, we can assess them. Again, this ordinance doesn't do any assessing, and as a matter of fact, in that resolution process, so if we're going to do a assessment, we would actually have to have a map and identify specifically the parcels. Now, if it's citywide, that's a little bit easier. You're going to do the entire city. But if there's just a specific area, you would actually have a map and you would notify those parcels, whether they're in or outside. As long as they're in our service area, we can assess them.
Thank you
but
for
again,
clearing that up.
Just like we can provide water and sewer when they're.
I have a follow-up question to that then. Any assessment, does it have to be related to a service that we're supplying them?
Yes, there has to be a specific benefit to that specific parcel.
So by example, somebody that's on Farrell Lane in College Point that we supply water and sewer to, but are in the county, can we do a stormwater assessment to them, even though there's no?
If we're, depends what we're doing with that what the purpose of that stormwater assessment is. So, I mean, if we're doing one that's citywide, okay, but if it's, what is the purpose of that assessment? Are we doing some sort of stormwater improvements out there?
Yeah.
Are we going to benefit that property and provide that stormwater service
And
to
the
them?
question becomes is whether we can do stormwater improvements outside our city limits. That's
Well, you can,
interesting.
yeah, but you can do utilities, you know, water, sewer, solid waste, as long as they're not in another city. And you got to notify the county. So if the county's already got their own, you know, like I think up north, the county has their own system, we wouldn't want to provide water and sewer there.
Sure.
And part of this, just so you know, even if we were going to do a stormwater assessment, you still have to do a legal description, and that legal description was actually done last year and updated. The city didn't have a legal description, and it has to be done, and it has been done, of the entire city.
Yeah, whatever area you'd like to assess, you have to identify it and notify them.
Okay. Is there any other public comments? Hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Yes. Moving on to item 14. And again, this is a public hearing. Final reading of ordinance 1103, amending chapter 26 of the Code of Ordinances, authorizing special assessments of nuisance abatement liens on the tax roll. City Manager, would you please call or read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 1103, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the city's Code of Ordinances regarding nuisances, amending the determination of assessed value for unsafe or unfit dwellings, repealing the requirement that certain prohibited conditions be noticed by publications, providing that the city may utilize the uniform method of collection authorized by Florida statutes, repealing provisions of the ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for codification, and reciting an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Obos?
Right, and again, this is our final reading, and this one is pretty simple. This amends chapter 26 to allow, when we do our nuisance abatements, now we can, when we do those liens on the property, we can move those liens to the tax roll at the end of the year. Again, we would still have to follow the process of actually notifying them, doing an assessment resolution. These would be more one-off type of deals, but you know, you can do 5 or 6 a year and have one little small tax roll that goes to the tax collector. But this allows us now to do that moving forward.
Thank you, sir. And,
If I may,
yes, ma'am.
just to clarify for everybody, this came up a while back. We have a handful of homes in Lynn Haven that people are not going to fix, and they're making the city fix them. And not only are they forcing the city to clean up their property, they don't care how many thousands and thousands of dollars that that have already been liened against their property. And this will allow us to eventually get our money, whereas there are people that will simply stay in that house, live there, and die there. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, owing us that money. At least this way, we, on a yearly basis, we can turn those liens over to their taxes and cause them to either sell or do something in order to pay that money back to the city.
And just to clarify for everyone, this does not include code enforcement fines. So if we've been fining a property, that's not an improvement. This has to be money that the city has expended to improve a property, which basically we've had to clean up the yard, do a clean and lean, you know, tear something down, or actually spend money to improve is the only way we can assess. So this is not going to be code enforcement fines. We can still do liens for those fines, but again, those liens, like you said, will sit there indefinitely.
Until the property sells.
Thank you.
Or, yeah. So, Commissioner, got any other questions? So,
I'd like to move to approve this.
all right, thank you, sir.
Second.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any more discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Trying to raise up so I can make sure I see everybody. Seeing and hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, thank you. Moving to item 15. Again, this is a public hearing. Final reading of ordinance 1104, modifying the Lynn Haven Police Officers Retirement Plan by raising the required distribution age and changing the date individual members shall or share accounts are established. First, let's read the ordinance, if you would, please, City Manager.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 50, Personnel, Article 3, Police Officers Retirement System of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Sections 50 through 81, benefit amounts and eligibility, amending Section 50 through 82, pre-retirement death, amending Section 50 through 85, optional forms of benefits, amending Section 50 through 91, minimum distribution of benefits, amending Section 50 through 92, miscellaneous provisions, amending Section 50 through 104, supplemental benefits component for special benefits, Chapter 185, share accounts providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief Ramey, do you have anything you'd like to say? Well, I've got a question for you, Chief. Just, I know I'm going to make you walk up here anyway. It's a quick, easy question. I'm assuming that your rank and file are okay with this change.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it was voted by the retirement board as well as our attorney advised that we move in this direction as well. And then Mr. Obos took it from there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Commission, got any other questions?
I assume it benefits them. I mean, based
Well,
on what you read,
It raises.
doesn't
the-
mean a thing to me, but if it benefits the police department,
It does.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
The internal review is amending the increase in required minimum distribution age from 70 and a half to 72.
22. Yeah.
So that looks like the biggest one that they had to vote on. But
Yes,
my
sir.
question is, does that increase, that would increase the fund over that time for less people drawn? So in the end, it's a balloon increase on the fund, so.
Okay. So what's the purview of the commission?
I move to approve if it's agreeable, Mal.
I'll second.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Seeing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Moving on to item 16, public hearing, final reading of ordinance 1109, amending the City of Lynn Haven charter. City Manager, would you please read the amendment?
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, proposing an amended charter, making the charter gender neutral, removing obsolete and outdated language, updating the terms of office for elected officials, and removing specific reference to transition dates, removing conflicting language on commissioners' compensation to be consistent with current practices, amending the process of filling vacancies on the commission, clarifying the appointment of department heads by the city manager, removing the designation of a city treasurer and providing that such duties shall be performed by the mayor, providing that the canvassing board shall report to the commission consistent with current practice, directing the supervisory elections place a referendum on the ballot of the next general election, providing ballot language, providing for notice of referendum in accordance with law, providing for codification upon that passage at referendum, and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Obos, I believe you may have something for us.
Yeah, and just to address a couple of the comments earlier, and obviously we can have more comments here after there's a motion. But this is not amending our charter. This is approving proposed amendments to get put on the ballot in April. So the citizens will absolutely have the final word in this, and we'd have to have a majority of citizens that vote to approve this. So just to clarify, this is going to go on if approved today, it would go on the referendum to be voted on by all citizens. The other comment about commission salary, again, there would not be any opportunity for this commission or a future commission to do anything, behind closed doors. You would still need an ordinance. As with any ordinance, 2 readings. publish notice in the paper for 10 days, have a public hearing. So, and again, if this is approved at referendum and goes into effect, it would be a new commission at that point in time. They would have to come back with an ordinance and have a couple of meetings if they want to set a salary and just basically codify what they're already getting, or if they want to give themselves a raise or reduce it, wherever they want to do, that would have to be done with multiple public meetings by the new commission. So I wanted to
Just to be
everybody's clear
clear,
about that.
just to be clear, the question was pertaining to the pay raises for commission from the citizen. So what was the old language and what's the new language?
The old language said you would still need to do a ordinance, and then you would have to put that ordinance on a referendum to get approved at an election, similar to what we're doing right now. But so say, look, I think we should get $40,000 a year. You would do an ordinance and say, put that on the referendum, and the citizens have to vote on that. So that's currently what's in the charter. This just says you don't have to put everything on a referendum. You still have to do an ordinance. And again, you have public input just in advertisements, just like any other ordinance. So we're just taking out the requirement for a referendum to approve anything. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a raise. It's just any setting of compensation.
May I say something?
Of course, ma'am.
Okay, let me start out by saying this. When I was elected 4 years ago, as I sit here, I'm telling you, I didn't even know we got paid. I thought we did this as, just a way to represent the citizens. And then when we all of a sudden, our pay got doubled, it was like, hold it, what just happened? And we went from $600 to $1,200 a month. I personally, and I realize this is going to go to referendum, but I personally don't think that the commission should be able to have an ordinance and then all of a sudden give ourselves a raise and we have to vote according to what's going to happen in the future. We're not all going to be here, so what's going to happen? What we're doing is saying that the people who we represent won't even have a say in whether we're paid $40,000 a year or we're paid $15,000 a year. And that if we can pass an ordinance takes 3 votes, we can just smooth right through it and without our residents have a say. I just really feel that they should have a say. What we did last time when Mr. White took over was basically against our own charter. He just popped in and said, hey, let's double the pay. And that's what happened, which, again, like I said, I was kind of just shocked. But I oppose it is what I'm saying, but thank you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, I'm done.
I would say that the citizens have a response every time, and I can assure you that, as a citizen, you should ask the people that are running for office, what do you think about your salary? Do you anticipate increasing your salary while you're in office? If you don't like the answer that you get from that candidate, you don't vote for them. At the end of the day, the final answer is in the ballot box. If you don't like your candidate, you don't like what they're doing, you vote them out of office. But that's, again, like you always say, that's one person's opinion.
And at the same time, if somebody asked me, I would be very honest and say, no, I don't think we should be able to give ourselves a raise. But anybody running for office, you would be absolutely insane to say, you know what I'm saying? If I walked up to you and said, are you planning on giving yourself a raise? Of course. If you want to be elected, you don't say, oh yeah, first thing out of the box, that's what we're going to do. I mean, it's just good common sense. People make a lot of promises they don't ever intend to keep. And
those are the people that should be voted out of office, in my opinion. But at any rate, is there any other discussion with the commission?
I'd just like to make sure that it's still up to the public to approve an ordinance, and there must be a public hearing, which means there needs to be, if it ever got to that point again, there would be a public workshop, and it would be up to the public to actually decide, but it wouldn't be through referendum. Is that
right? Well,
correct?
yes. So first, it's up to the public would be up to the public to approve the charter changes at referendum. As far as an ordinance, it's a majority of the commission, but you would have, first reading and then a second reading and a public hearing that would be advertised. So you would absolutely have public input on any ordinance, including one to set compensation.
Am I wrong? Were we supposed to have a public workshop for this? About making the changes? There was never a public workshop? This is the thing, and I know I hate to keep harping on it. This is something that the public, our residents, in my opinion, should have been able to have a workshop on. They're the ones that should be making the changes, not these 4 people sitting up here. Half of these changes are impossible to read, but the other half, we're eliminating things. We've not talked about that even, that we're eliminating a whole section. When this charter started, we used to have a city manager and a city clerk. And that's not been all that long ago. They were 2 separate people, and now they're one. And I don't know that that's right or wrong. I'm not judging on that. But I'm just saying, we have parts in here where the people who come out to vote, I guarantee, are not going to read the parts that have been eliminated. They're not going to read them, and it's up to us to, well, I'm not going to harp on that. I'll bring that up a little bit later. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Obis, if we left it as is, then, basically it's the same. It goes back to referendum. We'd bring it up. Let's say we wanted a raise. Okay, let's say Dan, since he's leaving in a couple weeks, wanted to go ahead and do a raise real quick, right? So he put together an ordinance and said we want to raise the pay $2,000 to the commission. At that point, it's going to go to, we have multiple readings we have to go through first off, with public input, with workshops, and then if it gets through that, it goes to referendum on the ballot. That's the current way.
Under the current charter, right,
Yes.
you'd have to do the ordinance adoption process, and then it would have to go in a referendum on the next election or a special election.
Okay, but what we're taking out is the making it go to referendum. So where's the benefit, I guess, on taking out I understand the argument of letting the people vote on
What
whether or
I'd
not.
like to see is if this is taken out, that we come back with if it gets approved, come back with an ordinance and actually set your salary, which I've yet to see. Like Commissioner Tinder said, I think it was done in a budget process with the prior city manager. So this is really with the goal in mind of cleaning up the charter, clarifying and adopting, past practices and making everything right going forward and having it approved properly.
In the referendum, if this should go through in the referendum, will there actually be a list of things that have been eliminated from the charter?
Well,
And a list of things that have been changed from and to?
It's in the packet, and it states.
Okay,
So yes, in
Yeah.
the ordinances, it'll have the ballot question, which talks about what's happening, and then it also it incorporates and references ordinance 1109. So if somebody wants to dig further, obviously you can't put the entire charter on
Right.
the ballot.
but can you just put the changes and the things you're trying to eliminate?
Correct. There are about 9 bullet points that will be
Yep.
on the ballot.
And they would be on the ballot?
That's what you're looking at on this page is exactly
Yeah.
what's on the ballot.
Section 3
Okay.
of the ordinance.
Okay.
And we're not doing anything with this eliminating the city clerk. It was actually 2001, I think it was 20 years ago, was the last charter change. And in that charter, you had a city manager position with all these details, and you had a city manager - clerk position with it looked like a lot of overlapping. And so that was eliminated 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it was just one position.
Right.
Thank you, sir. So what's the purview of the commission?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the pronouns, but I would like to pull out the part about taking the vote or taking it off of the referendum, changing to where we don't have to go to referendum anymore. I prefer, and I do this from my own personal thoughts, just like many do. Okay, and let's say Washington D.C. and they all go give themselves a raise. It ticks me off, right? Because I didn't have any say in it. They just go and do it, and I do think it's a good deal for the people to be able to have that vote or that say. I understand, Mayor Pro Tem, we are elected representatives of the people, so we're speaking for, the electorate here. On the flip side, when you're talking about pay raises for yourself, I mean, I've already seen that abused in DC, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep it on a ballot. Can we delineate those out of the ordinance, I guess is what I'm asking in that motion.
Well, you've made a motion, so we would need a second to continue discussion.
Okay.
Do we have the option?
No, I'd second because I'm behind just about everything else except what, we're bringing up a valid point on pay increases, and to Ms. Tinder, I was the same way. I didn't know this was a paid position until very near the election. I was like, so it was one of the last questions I asked myself, but and I try to give back as much as my salary back to different things. So I have a clear conscience in saying that it should be up to the citizens here, and that's in no regard something that I want to be involved with as a commissioner to vote on any pay increases. So if it ever does come around, it would still go the route of an ordinance and then a referendum. So we're just removing the referendum part. Is that correct?
The proposal
well,
right now.
The process would still be, and I would want it.
For correction, the motion that you just seconded pulls that out. So
Yes.
So salary would have to go back to referendum again.
On the ballot.
Yes.
My question is, now that we've got a motion and a second, the discussion is, can we move forward with the pronoun correction based on this motion, or is this going to push the pronoun correction out to not be able to make it to the March ballot or April
No, we
ballot?
can, that's not going to be a material, we're not adding anything material. You can take out one of the
you're taking a
proposals.
bullet out,
You can
right?
take out a proposal, and we can.
Very good.
We can change that for the ballot. What I would suggest, however, if there's a majority that's going to do that, is because if we want this to go to, the rest of these changes to go to a referendum, I would like to see the compensation set. Okay. I don't think it's been done. Mm-hmm. So whether you leave it, whatever you're getting right now, or give yourselves a pay decrease or an increase, put something where they approve, where the citizens can approve it, or at least ratify what you're doing right now. That's my concern.
So
My question, though, is if we change this now, because this is the final reading, if we change wording to add in our salary that we currently collect, is that not going to throw it out to where that can't make the April? Because the way I would see it is that, I mean, you'd have to have another first reading if you're adding wording to the ordinance.
Yeah, I think you could argue that would be a material, well.
And just so y'all all remember, I'm not running, so I'm out in May. So this doesn't affect me. I'm not going to be collecting any more money or anything else from this. I'm just trying to make sure we do this right.
Mr. Obis, would it behoove us to have me amend my motion to say keep salary at current rate, and then redo the whole ordinance, basically, or the whole motion that we're talking about here? Is that what I need to do in order to clarify this muddy water?
As Commissioner Russell said, I think if we added language like that, because again, that would be really setting, even if you're I don't care if it's a raise or decrease or increase, whatever, you're proposing to set a salary or set compensation, so that would be, I think, a material change, and we wouldn't be able to meet any sort of deadlines. If you just wanted to take out the proposed revision, so you still do have to go to referendum, I think you can do that. That's not going to solve our problem as far as setting your compensation. I mean, that would have to be 2 years from now, or unless you do a special election, if you want to put your compensation on a referendum.
The good thing about it, doing this, though, it would give y'all 2 years to sit down and form a committee or form somebody to go through this charter and make all the corrections that need to be made.
I like that idea. Yeah, if I'm hearing, I like what you just said. I'm not sure what you just said, but I would like to.
What I've just said is that I have not seen any commissioner compensation ever be set by ordinance or referendum.
Okay.
And you're all getting one.
And I think it should be set by referendum. I think the people should vote on raises. But I also want to talk about the fact that we're trying to hurry through, pass this, eliminate, add, and do all these he's to she's and it, whatever. And in less than 3 months, we're going to have people, all, newly elected people up here.
Well, just
I mean-
just for clarification, the
This is
reason
stuff
we're
we
rushing
knew
this
would need
through
to be changed
is
for a
to
long
get it
time.
on this election. And if we don't rush it through and get it in this election cycle, we either wait 2 years or we pay for a special election.
I'm not opposed to either one of those. To allow us to form a committee of residents to come up with these changes, if they have any. I just feel like we're shoving it through as quickly as we can go to change a few he's and she's and to eliminate certain things and,
I'm not sure I disagree with both proposals. Let's vote, let the citizens vote on the current changes and also do the revision for 2 years. That would be the course that I'd like to see happen, but again, it's up to this commission to decide what they prefer. But anyway, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so we're going to have to vote on that unless there's been a correction. So let's go. Is there any discussion with the public since we have a motion and a second on the floor? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker. Please keep in mind, Mr. Walker, I know this is probably a dear subject to you, but we do have a 3-minute time limit, sir.
Finally, you're coming down to reality. This is reality. I said it when I opened up. This is the public's hour document. You're rushing something through without even thinking about it. Really, you're taking opinions from people that are not involved with this. We are involved in this. Let me give you a little insight. The first breach and breaking of the law of the charter was done 5 years ago when they doubled your salary. That was done by the staff. The staff did that. The second breach of raising your salary was done by the staff behind closed doors. Public was not even told about it. The commissioners were not told about it. The charter is explicit. The commission will set their compensation by resolution, not ordinance, by resolution, and then referendum. What you're doing here is you're passing an ordinance. You're nitpicking at little things, not taking a look at the total document and planning it for now and the future. I got your attention by saying that the mayor of this town cannot be a woman. The city manager of this town cannot be a woman. Everybody thought that was a joke. It's not a joke. It's important. The President of the United States just passed transgender rules. Are we saying that our mayor is a transgender? What are we saying? It's explicit. It tells you it's not a joke. It's time to take a look at this document in total. Get a committee together of congressional people that know what they're talking about and involve the citizens and lay out a plan for the future. Don't nitpick at it by trying to force it into, by April, into something that you might not need. You can't decide on it. You're not doing it. I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. And these people know it. Mrs. Tinder is correct. When this gets on the referendum, if they see that in there, they're going to vote this down. And you've wasted all this time. Ladies and gentlemen, elected officials, let's do it right.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
Ryan Scragan, appreciate your motion in the second. So I just want to cover a few things here. First, I believe taking it out of the referendum for this upcoming election is the correct thing to do because you're, as Commissioner Tinder pointed out, giving more decision-making to the public. Because let's look at those workshops. How many people show up? 50? Whether they're preoccupied, busy, or disinterested, it doesn't matter. How many people are in this room? 21, 22, 25? Right. If we had public commentary for an ordinance that you guys could pass, are you going to let 500 people, if they showed up, I'm not saying they'll show up, but if they showed up, are you going to give all 500 3 minutes to talk, because that's what you're going to have to do if you want public commentary. You put it on a referendum, you're getting, what, 20% of the public of Lynn Haven that can vote participating, and all you got to convince is a little more than half of those. So you're talking about 10% of the population if you want a pay raise. Why don't we put any potential pay raise, if you guys are considering it, on a second referendum for this election? I'm not sure if we have time for that, but if you do, consider it a separate item on the ballot, separate of this change. Keep the language in there, but if you want a pay increase or a pay change, put it as a separate item. And in the future, with new commissioners, whether your Commissioner Tinder's voted back in, it looks like you're not running, so whoever the new one is, and the new mayor commissioner, let's let them, look at the governance process and figure out how that's going to look. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jamie, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Arlene go first, just because it's always ladies. So thank you for understanding. Yes, Miss Arlene.
Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. Presumably, our current charter is on the official website, correct? And could we have also on the website the proposed changes, highlight, just redo the charter and put in the proposed changes?
It's in the agenda for this commission meeting. If you go to the website,
Yep.
It's got the changes in our agenda packet.
Okay, so how?
Yeah, you just go to the commission meetings and go to the agenda, and you can scroll down and find it. Yes, ma'am.
But my question is are the parts that's been changed, are they highlighted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Ward.
Jamie Ward, 2002 Pentland Road. I know I brought this up back in August, and I didn't realize it was brought up before then, and I wish back then we had created a committee at that time. And I think that's what needs to happen here. And not only that, I think that's one of the changes that needs to be made in the charter. I think we even have disagreements just on the short discussion that we've had on the charter. And that's why I think having a committee to put this together, and that way the public can come in and put inputs in there, is extremely important. Because it shouldn't be about what I want. It shouldn't be about what the commission wants. It should be what the Lynn Haven residents want. And so this should be written by the residents of Lynn Haven for the residents of Lynn Haven. And I just, the point that was brought up earlier by Commissioner Tinder, I do think we're trying to rush this through because we're in a time crunch of trying to get it on the ballot. And when we do, what happens when you rush is you miss things. And something will get missed or something will get misconstrued, and then we're back to square one. This is important to me, that I think this is important, that needs to be redone because it's been way too long. But it needs to be put, in my opinion, it needs to be put in the charter that you assign a committee. Because I've looked at other cities as far as how their charters are written, and a lot of them have in there that they will assign a committee at a certain time, and usually it's about a year prior, that gives them plenty of time to go over it. So I urge you to not put it on the ballot. I know it's going to be another 2 years. Let's do that. I think we're going to do more harm if we put it on the ballot, because most people, they only going to have one question, yes or no. That's not a whole lot of input. So I ask that you put that into consideration, please. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, could I have a comment here? Sure. I'm not disagreeing to move it, to wait a couple of years, but it's just interesting to me. I know a lot of people around this county and in this city, and there's about 5 that are talking about a charter change, major charter overhaul. So we talk about the citizens. Yes, I agree. I don't live in a box. I talk to people and I meet people and I see people all the time, every single day. Got lunches booked all week this week. None of them in the past have come to me, and I'm speaking as a representative, that have come to me and said, you know what, Brandon, we have a terrible, terrible charter issue as it's being presented up here, and that we're all going to go to jail and it's all going to burn down to the ground if we don't fix all this stuff and all this, You know what, we'll put it off 2 years then. We can put together a committee. I'm not opposed to that at all. No one was discussing a charter up until the last couple months, and all of a sudden it's charter, charter, charter. Well, once you get outside these 4 walls, no one's talking about no charters. So let's wait 2 years. Let's let the public hear about it, and let's let some changes be made. Let's put together a committee. We can each possibly assign one person per board member and an outstanding member, and put together that board to overview that charter at that point. We'll just punt.
I second that.
Well, we actually already have a motion and a second.
We already have a
on the floor,
motion and a second. We have
and
to
that's
move
got to be
on.
dealt with before we can move forward, short of you withdrawing your motion.
I withdraw the motion.
All righty, does the second have to be withdrawn too? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think everything we put on here, minus the removing the language about commissioner compensation, is stuff that we've talked about, and I don't think anybody can disagree that it needs to be changed. All the other bullet points. The only thing that the only thing that we are talking about here was the compensation of the commission. So why not just put this, remove the compensation of the commission bullet, go forward with this change, put it on the referendum, let the citizens decide, and then you have 2 years, like you said, to form the committee to go forward with other changes. And if there's anybody who wants to contest any other bullet point on here that's spelled out, what's the issue? And the most vital thing that Mr. Walker brought up was the gender stuff. So I mean, we're updating the charter. It gets done in periods of time. So we have an issue on one point. We voted. We did the second, and let's remove that point and move on. And then everybody else's points are valid to move forward in the next 2 years toward a committee to make charter reform.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, and I didn't want to sit and go through every little item.
That's what we're here for. These are the bullet points.
You got it. Okay, if we go to, I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Under section 21, officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven. If I'm correct, everything with a line struck through it, we want eliminated. They would be voting to eliminate this.
Correct.
The first thing is we've crossed out city clerk. And what it says is officers and departments of the city of Lynn Haven, in addition to the city manager, shall consist of a city attorney, police chief, fire chief, city clerk, which we've crossed off, which would be eliminated, public works, finance director, and those departments as established by ordinance. The heads of each and every department shall be appointed by the city manager. And now we're crossing off this, we're eliminating this part, with the advice and consent of the majority of the commission, or upon the failure to do so, the mayor/commissioner shall make such appointments if it is deemed necessary or expedient by the majority of the commission. And in either event, such appointment shall be made by the advice and consent of the majority of the commission. That's all been eliminated. Okay? Do you agree with all that? That should all be eliminated?
Yes, that's why we hire a city manager.
Right. So I'm not
The
saying
city
anything about
manager should
that.
have
Do
their
you agree that we
department
should
head.
not have a deputy clerk?
The city manager is the clerk.
There's nothing in here about the deputy.
That is correct.
Okay.
This was, if you go back 20 years ago, they eliminated, the referendum back then eliminated city clerk, and it was left in there, and I think one other spot at the very beginning where it said manager/clerk's office.
Oh, that was by error?
Yes.
So you're just correcting an error?
Correct.
That's all that is.
Okay.
Looks like it was removed in numerous places 20 years ago, and they missed 2 spots.
Okay. On the part where we are adding that the mayor/commissioner will sign all checks that the city manager writes, have we added that in there as far as what we talked about last time? That should that mayor be indisposed, and I mean like out of town, would a commissioner suffice to sign those checks? And I think somebody else, and for your benefit as well, this is nothing, for the city manager's benefit, she doesn't want checks going out that aren't countersigned by someone.
Wouldn't that be Mayor Pro Tem?
It's still,
Well, and-
all checks take 2 signatures.
2 signatures.
And I know we did discuss this 2 weeks ago, and we decided not to make any changes because there's existing language that says during the absence of the city manager, let's see, the city commission can designate some properly qualified person. Let's see, there was something else in there about well, like I said, yeah, it'd be the mayor pro tem, it'd be whoever else would be acting, or if the mayor knows they're going to be out of town, they could designate somebody else on the commission to perform those roles. So it'd be more of a mayor
Okay.
pro tem duty.
Okay, so and shall countersign all checks and vouchers prepared by the city manager.
Right.
That
Again,
goes out?
Again, the
there's
checks
other,
would still have
you
to be
know,
signed by the city manager.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it takes both our signatures.
Right, takes 2.
But there's other language in the absence of the mayor, there's a mayor pro tem that can fill those roles. So that would be one of those roles that
Okay,
by default could be done.
okay,
So yeah, you're always going to have the two signatures.
okay. So are we adding that or taking that out? That line right there?
We're adding that line. We've moved that. So what she's referring to is where it says "and shall countersign all checks and vouchers." That was over in section 30 under city treasurer, which we don't really have a city treasurer because it said there shall be a city treasurer who shall countersign all checks. We've just moved that duty from city treasurer over to mayor.
Which the mayor has
Mayor's
kind of always
absent,
been
so
the
it-
treasurer, right?
Right. So it's not new language. We just moved it from one spot to the other
Okay, so that's just.
to be
new.
consistent with what we've been doing, which is having the mayor sign, and not a city treasurer.
I have different feelings on how the vote's going to go on this. I hope that the clarifications, if we move forward, I hope that all the changes and additions and whatnot are very easy for our residents to understand, because I'll tell you, being totally honest, I have gone into that ballot thing, and when I see all this gizmo and all that, I go, I'm going to vote for who I just want to run, and I eliminate that. I don't even look at it. It's so mind-boggling, and I certainly know I'm not the only one that does that. But if we don't get the majority of the votes for this,
if we
you're
don't-
right. We'll just turn around, form a committee
Yep.
next year, and do it that way.
Can we still not delineate out if Commissioner Perno wants some of those items to move forward, can we not just delineate out in the ordinance that we're doing here of what we want to move forward and what we want to remove?
Your
I think that's what the
your-
motion
your
is right
motion
now,
was
is
to remove the
everything moves forward.
the compensation.
Other than the compensation.
Commission compensation.
I thought it died. I didn't think I had a
No,
second.
no, no.
Well,
No.
he did not withdraw his second,
You
so we
actually
still have
rescinded your motion, but he has not rescinded his second, so the motion's
Okay.
still
still
there.
out there.
That works, okay.
Yep. So the motion's still on the floor because Caperno. And if there's no more discussion, with the commission, we're going to call the roll. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Moving on to item 17 in new business. Discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2021-02-350 stating the city's intent to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem special assessments as provided by the law. Mr. Obos, it's all
Right.
yours.
Sure, and this is, again, this will be a public hearing. I don't know if the city manager do you want to read the resolution
Oh,
by
is it
title?
public? I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was a public hearing.
It should be, but it's fine.
Okay, sorry.
Resolution 2021-02-350, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven electing to use uniform method collection of non-ad valorem special assessments for more than 1 year levied in the City of Lynn Haven, stating the need for such levy, providing for the mailing of this resolution, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. And again, this is the one that appeared in the newspaper 4 consecutive weeks. Most importantly, what I want to make everybody aware of is Section E at the very end. Adoption of this resolution shall not be deemed to commit or require the city to impose any assessments. We're not imposing an assessment. However, if you want to do an assessment this year, we have to, at this point in time, adopt this resolution, giving the notice of our intent that says, listen, we might have an assessment later on this year to go on the tax roll in November. To get it on the tax roll, we have to start prior to March 1st, and that's all this resolution does, is saying we may have some assessments this year that you'll see on the November tax bill. You know, theoretically, we're probably going to have some nuisance abatement ones if we do some clean and liens, I think is really the main intent.
This is all the legal language about the city, the actual.
Right, you show our city limits, and you're saying we may have an assessment sometime this year in the city. And then, again, to actually do it, you've got a whole nother process to go through with more resolutions, but you have to, really, this is to let the tax collector and property appraiser know that it might be coming in September, and they just need this much heads up.
Thank you, Mr. Obos. Is there any questions for the city attorney from the commission?
Member Tim, may I
Yes, ma'am.
have, last year, or a little bit before last year, the commission did direct the city manager to continue with the stormwater study. And so that study has to come before you. It'll be in March that we will have a workshop. We'll bring this, of course, to the commission, to our citizens, and the Stantec will give you the information that they found, their recommendations, and it will, again, be up to the commission whether or not that goes forward. But you have to know what that assessment may or may not be. And so, for instance, if you see something and you really like what they brought forward, and you say, yes, let's move forward, but we don't have this in place, we will not be able to move forward. And so that's one of the reasons we put it in place. They may get here, they may do the workshop. You don't like anything you see, then you vote, nope, let's not do anything. But we're just putting all of the processes in place in case that happens. Okay.
Motion to approve.
So we have a motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And since it's for discussion, yes, sir.
I just want to be clear. This is the opportunity right now, as we discuss is all this legal language. Going back to the question that Mr. Walker had on the service areas and the whether you're incorporated or not incorporated. There's a map here, and it's this area specifically on page 27 of the, and I just lost my place, but it was like the final page of all the
Page 122
legalese.
on the agenda.
Yeah,
You're looking
yeah.
for it. Yeah, that map shows the incorporated city limits.
City limit.
So that's all we're talking about.
Legal
That's
description
the
of
notes
that.
here. And again, if we were to do an assessment, there would have to be more resolutions. It would likely be a more limited area than the entire city limit. You know, a lot of these special assessments, some of them, like I said, are just one or two parcels that were specifically benefited. You have some that are citywide, and then it would be everything on the map. But this is just the area being noticed. There would have to be additional resolutions and notices that go out once you get to the point of actually wanting to do a special assessment.
Okay, so we voted, we second, but it's only for this area. So that would answer his question, correct?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to be clear. So the other areas about incorporated or service areas would be having to have direct improvement of the actual stormwater to apply an assessment.
Right.
Okay. I'm good with that. It's all spelled out. Just wanted to make sure we.
Understood it.
Yep.
Yes, sir. So any other discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Hearing none, city manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Item 18, discussion and possible approval of change order number 1, relocating city underground utilities related to Highway 98 widening projects. And I'm glad to see you coming up, because I've got some questions.
Okay. Do you want to start with questions or?
No, I'll let you, maybe you
Okay,
can answer my questions before I ask them.
Well, the change order number 1 has 10 moving parts in it. It's resolving stormwater conflicts, fixing some aging sewer lines, fixing some aging water lines that are all in that DOT corridor. These are Lynn Haven budgetary items. We have the budget for it, but they fall outside of the FDOT reimbursement. So this is a cost to our utility department to fix.
So my question's obviously, the original contract for the utility move was 1.9 million. The change order is 241, or
Correct.
241,000. Are these utilities that were missed in the original plans, or are they stuff that was denoted in the plans and when we went to move them, we didn't realize
No,
they were?
it wasn't missed. We didn't know at the time when that utility plan came in that the stormwater pipe was going to be so large that it would effectively, we'd have to move the water and sewer lines out of the way of it. The item number
The
4.
Proposed stormwater pipes that were in the plans?
Correct.
They weren't-
When
size of
they
those weren't
actually,
called out?
right, when they actually laid them out and they figured out where exactly those utilities were, there was a conflict there that had to be resolved due to the depth. We don't want our water and sewer lines running under a 7-foot stormwater pipe.
I
So,
get that.
so that was one of them. The other one was item 4, which we didn't know the depth of the utilities that are there, which would effectively put a foot of cover over, once they finish the road and go down 3 feet and do their base and all that. That's not enough cover to protect our utilities. So that item 4 relocates them outside of that intersection and protects them.
I mean, obviously, at a 12% change order, makes me a little nervous, and
It
my
is.
questioning is trying to find out why or
Yeah,
how it
and
happened.
it wasn't just one thing, it was a whole list of things that as the project moved forward and they found, oh, well, this is where this pipe actually is. Oh, this is exactly how deep it is. That's not going to work in the overall scheme of things.
So we have some utilities that we
Mm-hmm. And-
don't know the exact location of, is what I'm understanding.
Depth-wise, we know left and right,
Sure,
but
sure.
we don't track how deep they're installed from 1960.
Sure.
And some of this too was the condition, the aging sewer lines. We don't want to tie the new stuff to something that's going to fail right at the edge of that right of way and cause a large problem. So condition was one of the things we didn't have a good handle on 3 years ago.
So pretty much you can say this would be an unforeseen cost.
Yeah, a lot of these, well, I'd say all of these were unforeseen because we didn't know the depths of the pipes during the planning stages. Some changes during the plan, the DOT made some changes. Constructability, we had to move some things out of the way so that they wouldn't affect the next phase of the project, so.
That's all I got. Greg, my experience dealing with you the last almost 4 years is, you're a straight up guy, so I appreciate the straight answer, sir. Commissioner, any other commissioners got any questions?
$241,000 added to the contract. So, I mean,
Yeah, I have a hiccup with this, and I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, so you'll just have to deal with me. As much as I like the fact that 390 is getting widened, it infuriates me that we're eating a cost of moving utilities off a state right away when the state made the decision to move the road. But unfortunately, that's the way the system is, and we have no choice but to pay it. So, that has been from day one.
and we'd
It's actually-
rather have new connections than old connections, correct? And
I'm sorry?
Your point is that this is mostly about connections and depth of pipe and.
And relocating utility structures outside of that DOT right-of-way. The item number 4, instead of having that north-south 6-inch water main, will actually come inboard and cross at Pennsylvania. So it gets it out of that main intersection.
Yeah, I'd echo the Mayor Pro Tem's comments on this. It's no fun spending this kind of money.
I agree.
But on the flip side, it's not our chessboard, so to speak. So we got to play their game. Is what it is.
And there won't, this is the final, there won't be any other changes. This is everything.
This is the final to get us to Indiana Avenue. That was one of the things we wanted to be sure of.
That
was
crosses 77 too, right?
Yeah, we're crossing 77 going east to Indiana Avenue. That is the extent of the 390 West is how we're naming it, even though it's on the Indiana side.
Right.
Yes, we made a big effort to make sure we had all of the parts in place for this request, so that they can't come back to us 6 months later and say, oh yeah, we forgot about this. Well, this was their one shot to get it cleaned up and fix what we know is a conflict.
Make a motion, accept that.
So we have a
I'll
motion?
I'll second the motion. And
Thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion with the commission?
one point, going past Indiana, do you know what to expect now? Or are we
Yes.
still going to uncover?
Yeah, we're still working on that. The resurfacing project is moving forward for that section. They're not going to widen it,
Right.
but they will resurface it. We've already started that work, identifying the conflicts, looking at all the matrix for that, and yeah, we're well on the way to resolving all those.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg. Is there any discussion with the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Work. Yeah, you may want to hang out right here in case he has a question for you.
No, one quick question, and then I'm sure maybe we've already looked at this, but I didn't know that about 390, that it was affecting us that much, and that's good information to know. Did we look at possibly asking the state if they could assist with it, or is there a grant or something we can look at?
Yes. That's kind of laughable, but yes.
Yeah, FDOT does reimburse us
Yeah.
for work that we do inside of their corridor. We've just submitted for over $200,000 for this last round. That'll get us pretty well caught up through November. So
But anything outside the corridor or
anything outside
inside of that
belongs
right of way
to
is
the
ours.
city. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the public? Hearing none, city manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item 18, nope, 19, nope. Yeah, 19.
1920.
Discussion, I'm sorry, it's been a long morning. Discussion and possible approval of resolution 2021 authorizing approval and adoption of the city's drinking water system assessment management plan.
I can actually answer these for you.
Okay, yeah.
These next, yes, yes. A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing approval and adoption of the Drinking Water Assessment and Management Plan for promoting the long-term sustainability of the city's potable water system and complying with the finance rate reduction requirements of the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Design and Construction Loan Agreement, DWZ 03-20290. And this is actually, you approved this last commission meeting, but what we did not have with it was the resolution that should have been with it. And then they sent us this resolution, so we're having to come back and for you to approve the resolution. But you've already approved the master plan that we presented last commission meeting. So both this will be for water and wastewater. And these are just, this is kind of like a formality. You've already approved the plan. Now we just need resolutions in place for that.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion or any questions for the commission?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion with the public? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Item 20, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2021-02-352, authorizing approval and adoption of the city's wastewater system assessment management plan. City manager, would you please read the ordinance?
A resolution of the City of
Or resolution, I'm sorry.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing approval and adoption of the wastewater system assessment plan for promoting the long-term sustainability of city's wastewater system and complying with the finance and rate reduction requirements of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Design and Construction Loan Agreement, WW030260.
And this is the same situation as item 19.
That is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Move to approve.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? City Manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Prano?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Item 21, first reading of ordinance 1105, voluntary annexation of parcel 11659-000-000. Would you like to read the ordinance for us, please, Julie?
Yes, sir, I will. Ordinance number 1106, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from Bay County residential to the City of Lynn Haven commercial for approximate 0.489 plus acres of property located at East 9th Street in the City of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances conflict herewith with providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. No action is required on this item. Does the commission have any questions for the city manager?
I think I do. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right map, number one. You said East 9th Street?
I think it was 19th Street.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, 19th.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
ma'am.
I'm okay then. I was wondering where we were going on 9th Street. Huh?
Parcel right behind the Tannen bed.
Yes.
Across from the Winn-Dixie.
And we're not discussing or voting on anything about what's going to be put there. We're
No,
just,
well, we're actually not
we're just
voting
voting
on
on
Anything.
changing.
Annexing it into the property.
Date,
into the city.
yes.
Okay,
But we're not voting. This is the first reading.
yeah, thank you.
So let's moving on to item number 22. First reading of ordinance 1106, small-scale future land use map amendment from Bay County residential to City of Lynn Haven commercial. Parcel number 11659-000-000. City Manager, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from Bay County residential to the City of Lynn Haven commercial for an approximate 0.489 plus acres of property located at East 19th Street in the City of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. This is another item that has no action, but does the commission have any questions before we move on? None? Okay, moving on to number 23. First reading of ordinance 1107, voluntary annexation of parcel 11573-008-000. City Manager, would you please read this ordinance?
An ordinance annexing into the municipal limits of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, certain contiguous compact unincorporated land located on Highway 389 in Bay County, Florida, for an approximate 9.7 plus acres of property, as is more particularly described herein, pursuant to Florida statutes, section 171.044, amending the boundaries of the city to include said land, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and reciting an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. This again is another item with no action necessary tonight, or this morning, excuse me. Does the commission have any questions for the city manager about this item?
The only question I have on this one is this the property kind of right across the street from Land's Landing?
Do you know
On
where-
389?
Do you know where Dewberry,
It's actually-
Dewberry Engineering's office is?
No.
You know where the Legion is?
You know where the Aberdeen Loop is?
Yes.
Okay, yep, Dewberry's building's there. It is the next parcel just to the
Right.
south of Dewberry.
You know where the American Legion is?
Mm-hmm.
On the
Yeah.
Aberdeen? It's
Yes.
like catty corner across the street from them.
Okay.
Well, it does go all the way back, but it also fronts 389.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That,
Yes, ma'am.
that has a capacity impact for 389.
Okay. No action required. Any other questions? Nope. Moving on to item number 25. Discussion and approval or possible approval of the application for development order for Mai Tai Asian Bistro, parcel number 09184-000-000. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so anybody that's going to testify, Mr. Obos, I believe you're going to have to swear him in, correct?
Right, and then you have to disclose any ex parte communications anyways.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none.
I've eaten Thai food.
Yes, ma'am.
It's quasi judicial, so I have to be sworn in.
Is anybody else going to be testifying today? Nope. All right.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Can I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
ask a quick question? I might have missed it. I heard you read the ordinance for the annexation of the property by Aberdeen Loop on 389, but I didn't hear you read the land use one. Did we do that?
Did I skip it?
I feel like we might have missed it.
I was with you too. I was just.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them here.
I know. I think we missed the land use, the first reading of the land use. I think it's
Okay.
1108. Is it 1108?
1108, okay.
Number 24. So we'll go back to that in just a second. Let's
Thank
go ahead and-
you.
Since we've started this, let's go ahead.
1108 is,
The land use
You
change.
she read the annexation. I don't think.
but it's after this, isn't it?
No, 24. No, we're on 25 now.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am. Let's go ahead and do 25, and we'll back up to 24. And I apologize for skipping over that.
Thank you. This is a request for a development order approval to construct a Mai Tai Asian Bistro takeout restaurant on the 0.232 acre vacant parcel located at 105 4th Street East, parcel number 09184-000-000. The applicant is requesting development order approval for this vacant property. The property has a future land use map designation of mixed use. Therefore, a takeout restaurant is an allowable use. The proposed restaurant will be 1,600 square feet in size, and the stormwater system will remain private. The site plans have been reviewed and have been found to be in compliance with the City of Lynn Haven Unified Development Code, technical standards, and Florida state requirements. This item was heard by the Planning Commission on Friday the 2nd, 2021, who recommended approval. I would like to mention that in your packets are the Planning Commission meeting minutes, and there were some people who came out at that meeting who live in the vicinity who had some questions and wanted to voice their concerns because of the residential that's there. But I did explain to them that the use is an allowable use. So a restaurant is one of the many uses that could be allowed on that property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I do have a question. You used a term that I haven't heard. Restaurant, a takeout restaurant?
Yes.
We actually have a land use or a designation for that?
Well, the reason I mention that is because the parking requirements are different for a sit-down restaurant where you have more people going and staying for a period of time than a takeout restaurant where people are usually picking up and going.
You went right where I was asking, because the plans show 5 parking spaces and 1 handicap, so there's only 6 spaces for this property.
And that's
So that's where my question was.
Yes, and that's
my
because it's a
question, too.
takeout. Now, they do meet the parking requirements for a takeout, and I would also like to mention that they've actually gone above and beyond, because in the CRA, this restaurant is located in the CRA. In the CRA, those minimum parking requirements that are required generally in the ULDC are not required in the CRA. They are fewer. The requirements are less. Yeah.
So Amanda,
I feel
you're,
like you've got it covered. Oh, I'm sorry.
so no, go ahead. They are strictly takeout. You cannot eat in?
They have submitted to be a takeout. They've got no indoor, they should have no indoor seating. I believe they're going to maybe have a little outside area with a couple of tables, but they're classified as a takeout restaurant.
And the only concern I would have in that area is if the entrance to their business is off 77, right there on that curve. Is it, or do they have to come up Pennsylvania to come in?
It's actually 1 block off.
It's one
Yeah,
block
it's on
back.
4th Street.
Right.
So they have to come off 77
Okay.
in order to get into it.
Okay.
It's behind the, it doesn't front on 77.
Okay.
Because you have that
That
little
parcel
easement.
that,
Yes.
yes, that parcel. So they're not going in that parcel.
No, they're not in the
over
front
one
one.
block.
They're the one behind that's on Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there should be a map in your packet, ma'am.
I see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Richard? No?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion with the public? Any discussion with, any discussion with the commission? Sorry. Any
They have
discussion
great
with the public?
food.
I'm sorry?
They have great food.
Yes, they do. Yes, we do. Yes, they do. Any discussion with the public? Nope. Hearing none. City manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perno, excuse me,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Yes, I'm looking forward to, actually, that one and Diego's both. I'm looking forward to both of them. We've got to step back to item 24 because unfortunately I stepped over it. So item 24, first reading of ordinance 1108, small-scale future land use map amendment from Bay County Residential to City of Lynn Haven mixed use for parcel number 11573-008-000. City manager, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from Bay County residential to City of Lynn Haven mixed use for an approximate 9.7 plus acres of property located at Highway 389 southeast of Aberdeen Parkway in the City of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. And this is another item with no action, but does anybody in the commission have a question for the city manager or the planner? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 26. Discussion and possible approval of an amended contract with GAC for temporary facilities. City manager, it says here you may have something.
Yes. Back in 2019, we did put together a bid pack that was put out for temporary facilities. GAC won that bid, and the original contract was for 2 years. Right now, we are getting reimbursed every 6 months from FEMA. So FEMA pays 90% of our rent for those facilities. The state picks up 5, and we pick up 5. This contract is going to end in April, but what we are proposing, instead of going another 2 years, is that we amend this contract for 6 months at a time. So it comes before the commission every 6 months for the commission to approve, and that is also kind of the churn in terms of when we get our reimbursement for FEMA.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a discussion item, so I would like to make a comment. It's been brought before this commission several times that we are spending an exorbitant amount of money for those trailers for the house the city. If you do the numbers based on the packet, both City Hall and the police station cost us just under $1,200 a month. So if you take out the 2 years worth, which that's my anticipation, it's going to take us 2 years before we get into the new City Hall. That's a total of $28,000 for a rental. I don't think that the numbers that have been spouted at this dais in the past were correct when people were talking about us spending exorbitant amounts of money for that rental. $28,000 for 2 years worth of rent is pretty reasonable in my opinion. So, but then anyway, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of my opinion on that. So,
If I may,
yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask, going 6 months, which obviously makes good common sense, is the shortening of the contract every 6 months, have they raised the monthly fee? Is it costing us more or less?
No, ma'am, they did agree to this
Exact same
contract.
thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you increased it for 2 years, though, but we're going to revisit it every 6 months.
We're going to revisit every 6 months.
But the length of the contract is 2 years, right?
Before then, it was 2 years,
Oh,
yes.
So now it's 6 months at a time?
6 months at a time, and that's just the way we're looking at in terms of dealing with Florida
With
Architect.
no rate increases?
No rate increases of any.
The original contract was a 2-year
years.
contract with a 2-year price. Those 2019 prices, there was a separately quoted 6-month price, and so that hasn't changed. So we're moving into, so it's the same one that was in the bid package 2 years ago.
Okay.
They did not
It
increase
is.
that at all.
They did not. And since we're moving into the rebuild, we anticipate, I know Florida Architect is moving really fast, anywhere from 16 to 18 months to get all the buildings. And so we don't want to be caught in the middle of a contract. So if we can do that every 6 months, that'd be great. And we get reimbursed for it. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Move to approve?
We have a motion
Second.
And a second. Is there any more discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
If I understand what you corrected there, it's 6,000 some odd dollars a month for renting?
Our share is $1,199.06 a month.
Okay, that's what you said, all right, okay.
The 10% is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5%.
Or 5, yeah.
5%.
5% of the total cost, which comes out to just under $1,200 a month.
That's a lot better than what we first learned of years ago. And the thought came up is, why didn't we buy these things and do it? At that price, I can understand where you're going. For 2 years and renewal every 6 months, that's fine. Because it would be beneficial to look at the contract and see if we should buy them now, because then we'd own them and then get the money back by selling them to somebody else. But I think your decision is good there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion with the public? Hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Number 27, adjournment. Thank y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all being here, and sorry for the length of the meeting.
Wow.